I will start class. Can't just talk to a bunch of boxes. That's truly boring. All right. And that's one dog outside. Thank you. We got a couple people. I'm like, thank you. It's real, folks. And that's right. Today I'm Joakim Noah, 2-time All-Star, 1-time Defensive Player of the Year. And I don't know, one of my favorite all time is Scottie Pippen. And yeah, I grew up in Illinois, and I love Jordan. Everybody loved Jordan, but I love Pippen. And my son plays a lot like Rodman. Like, it doesn't matter. He's going to put his body on the ground one way or another. He's going to wind up with some kind of injury, but maximum effort. So let me open up the chat here, and I'm going to get this going in a minute. Are there any questions as we start the chapter on Deviants, or as we kind of get into it? Did a little bit of an introduction on Friday for those people that were here on a Friday. Diligent, hardworking. We worked super hard. All right, any questions? And do we have a study guide for the exam on this Friday? Yes, there will be a study guide, and I will release that study guide probably shortly after class, after I go crush somebody else's dream on the court. Then I'll come back and I'll come back and I will post it. It is for chapters 4, 5, and this last chapter 6 on deviance. You are all professional sociologists by now. You know what to expect. Same format as the first test. I did just check, and I'm looking here at our extra credit food donations. Our class has raised a whopping $65. That is less than impressive when our goal is $5,000. But I know it's still early. Well, actually, it's midway through the semester. So regardless, get on top of that, make some donations, share that link with some family members, share the link with Jeff Bezos. I don't know. I read somewhere that he lost like, maybe it was Elon Musk, lost like $26 billion last week, just like, lost. And I didn't feel bad at all. Nope. Oh, maybe I'm deviant because I don't care that guy lost billions of dollars. Hey, I bet if you give me one, I won't lose it. Just one. I bet I'll know exactly where it is even. All right. So, well, let's get into this chapter. I don't see any questions. This test, I believe, is open on Friday. It's open for a little over 24 hours. Study and be mindful. And if you have any questions, reach out to your grad assistants. Reach out to me. I think, Julie was upstairs doing her artwork on Friday and asked me why I was singing Material Girl to the class. So somebody's listening to these. Hey, did you just dye your hair purple recently? See, this is my special power. I can have 250 students and not know anybody's name, but I will be able to tell if you got new glasses or changed your hair, dyed it, got a haircut, or are wearing like a particularly new ensemble. Those are the things that I can absolutely guarantee that I will pick up on. I don't even see you all that often, and your hair is back most of the time. And I still got it. Ding, 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 woo. Oh, all right. Let's get to class. So anyway, if you need anything, that's our whole promise to you this semester is that we're available. So if no stressing out before the test or anything else, just reach out to us. And all joking and deviance aside, this is actually what I wear a lot. This is how I look a lot when you don't see me. I'm kind of addicted to hats, and I just bought like 2 in the last 24 hours, Bulls hats. And one of them was a Bears hat. Oh, because the dogs took my super sweet hat and killed it. So I bought the same hat I had, and then I bought another cool one today. I don't know. Has anybody got that with shoes or anything else? Maybe somebody might look at your shoe collection as deviant since we're talking about it. Now, it's funny. Hats all the way. It's funny. Previously, I've had students in this section of deviance that identifies the gender male say that they have like 200 pairs of shoes. And somehow we like find that way more deviant than like if somebody who identifies as the gender female has like, 200 pair of shoes, something like that. So it's always interesting to me what we find deviant and why. So let me jump back here. Oh, and well, let me grab the pit bull real quick. Sorry about that. That's Alma, my snuggle muscle. The boys told me that she's thick and spelled it in a different way and everything. So now I'm on top of that. I know that's like years and years ago. My students just taught me last semester, the semester before, what Rickrolling is. And if you've ever heard of, so most people know what Rickrolling is, right? I did something last year where it was like a test or an assignment or a video maybe where my son edited it in and I Rickrolled an entire class. Ow! 5 years after that was even relevant. Deviant. That's right. But that's okay because I'm a dad, so it doesn't matter if it's relevant. All right, let's get to this lecture here today, everybody. We talked about deviants. Oh, and I guess let me answer a couple questions. Let's look at some of our data real quick. Are you deviant? Got more people answering now. Yes, some, 46. Yes, lots, 9. No, not much, 9. We looked at that, but let's type an act. Type an act that you consider deviant. We had 62 people, so let me read these. Stealing, 6. Underage drinking, 3. Smoking weed, underage drinking, lying. Underage drinking, lying, sororities and fraternities. Putting an act on to impress somebody else. Wearing a swimsuit to class. Maybe I should have been wearing my Speedo all these years when I teach deviance. I might be more comfortable. I've never really considered that before. But yes, why would it seem strange or why would it be deviant? I mean, it might be a really nice swimsuit too, and that's not the case, right? That's not the thing that makes it deviant is how many people are showing up to class in swimsuits. All right, skipping school, getting sloppy drunk. I consider lying a deviant act. Drugs, maybe. Cheating on exams, not going to class, cheating on your significant other, burping at a formal dinner in some cultures, right? So as we look, I love this cross-cultural deviance piece where that is totally acceptable in some cultures, and here, you know, maybe your mom, dad, somebody gets upset about it. Murder, graffiti, skipping class, having to, let another dog out, this time a Boston Terrier. Oh my goodness. It's kind of perfect for the class on deviance. I'm just expecting like there's going to be a constant, there'll be some chickens in line pretty soon here for me to let out during class. Some stranger that's been living in my garage. Can I open up the door for you? All right. Wearing clothes that break social norms. Ooh, what clothes would break social norms? Situational, I suppose, right? All right. Cheating on your partner. In a way, being a proponent for social justice is you're fighting systemic norms. Quotes, not a bad thing. Yes. Drunk driving, plagiarism, sneaking out of the house, stealing something, not saying thank you. Going the speed limit might be deviant. If you live in Illinois, anywhere 2 hours around Chicago, and you are not speeding, you are definitely going to have people give you all sorts of hand signals that let you know that you're deviant for not going 20 miles faster than the speed limit. Not paying someone back. Yes, racism, robbery, cheating, cussing, graffiti, purposefully disobeying orders from parents. Christianity could be deviant, sure. How you practice it, I suppose, and in other places, if it's not the dominant religion. Robbing a bank, vandalism, littering, when an older man finds interest in a younger child, saying the N-word, bragging about your salary in the middle of class, going 60 miles an hour in a 40, long bathroom breaks on the clock. Is that deviant or is that just smart? No, I'll get back to here. Sorry, get back to this while you're on the clock. Hard drugs, sexism, theft. Oh, wow. All right. So we are all over the place from please and thank you to our biggest kind of violations, you know, having somebody older, being interested in somebody younger. We talked about that last semester. So good. All right, let me get back here and do a screen share here for everybody. This business. Okay. John Belushi makes me feel like it's college. How many deviant acts could apply to you? 1 to 2 per week, maybe. I'm almost an angel. I do all right. 3 to 4, 5 to 7, 7 plus 0. All right. So let's look at the textbook deviant definitions of deviance. All right. The recognized violation of cultural norms. Right. I mean, I'm not even breaking too many cultural norms, but I'm guaranteeing that none of your, if I had money, I'd bet on it. that nobody else's teacher has showed up to a Zoom meeting ready to go one-on-one with the entire class, play a little bit of hoops. I'm guessing. So again, it's that from a certain point of view. So the recognized violation of cultural norms, which are of course situational, right? Alternative definition, behavior that some people find offensive and that would result in disapproval or hostility if known. And, the question comes up here, or I think an important thing would be, whose disapproval? And I disapprove about a lot of things, but they don't change. So when we talk about disapproval that actually, makes a difference on a big level with deviance, what's that mean? And who is it? And what are those words that we say all the time? Power and access. My French teacher once threatened us with a cricket bat. Ooh. In second grade, my teacher pulled down Steve Sager's pants and spanked his bare bottom in class. Yeah, that happened. Oh yeah. Oh, my goodness. And kept their job. She kept her job. Mrs. Carrick. I still remember that. So perhaps the most complete definition, everyone, is deviance is anything from an action to a state of being. It doesn't even need to be something somebody chooses, right? Like that results in disapproval, hostility, or sanction. Just the presence of teenagers is gonna anger some elderly people at times. Doesn't matter what you're wearing, doesn't matter what you're doing. The category of people is troublesome, right? So deviance, it can be a lot, and something again that you could be your gender, something the color of your skin, something that you have no choice over whatsoever. So again, whether you're thinking of yourself as deviance or not, it doesn't really matter. That's one thing really important, right? So can deviance be different from person to person or group to group? Of course, absolutely. I mean, think of a small subculture, or not even subculture, think of a small, probably counterculture, but group of friends whose main job is to steal things. And then that person also lives with a family and takes his kids to school, right? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, absolutely. Certainly in an important distinction, situational. Deviance is situational, okay? Went to Catholic schools, the nun teachers would hit us on our hands with rulers. What they used to do to my dad in Catholic school was make him cut his own switch, right? And a switch is something that you would beat someone with. And so they would make you go outside and cut a branch off a tree. Now, and this is unspoken, if you didn't cut a big enough branch for them to beat you with, they would choose the stick. So there was no like getting out of that and being like clever or anything like that. Yeah. I mean, imagine now, right? It's deviant back then not to beat students because you had to control them. I mean, can you imagine that today? No, of course not. That's the proof that culture changes, right? And it's not stagnant. So deviance, any attitude, behavior, or condition that violates cultural norms or societal laws. And once you get into formal breaking of deviance, then you're into like criminal law, territory. And of course, sanction. And I say sanction here a few times. Sanction is a punishment of some sort, a ticket, expulsion. I mean, how many students at CU do you think, because I got the email this morning because I teach there, how many, do you see what happened over the weekend? Party turned into a riot. Riot turned into injured police officers or SWAT team members, which resulted in an email this morning that's like, you're going to be kicked out and you won't be able to like reapply for admission. I mean, they, in the midst of a pandemic, I'm telling you what, flipped a car. I mean, must be tough being so overprivileged. All right, key points. Deviance is really hard to define, even for sociologists. So it involves a perceived difference. We talked about that. What is different? I'm wearing a swimsuit in class, nobody else is, and a moral judgment. Now, that moral judgment, you can make that moral judgment, but again, 300 are being kicked out. I'm a parent. Right now. My heart is sinking for people that, let me just say this and then I'll move on. Alcohol the genius maker, right? I'm 47. Worst decisions I've made in my life have been on alcohol. Try and save yourself the trouble and money of that yourself. My goodness. Didn't work hard enough. Our project made me sit inside out the window, 50 kids. I don't know. My parents, oh my, yeah. Yep. I mean, think about that's just the school sanction. Wait till your parents find out how much money they just wasted for you to, sorry, not trying to be judgy, but wait. I'm not trying to be judgy, but deviance involves a moral judgment. So I've just made it clearly in front of everybody. Yeah, it's tough. So what is deviance? Any behavior, practice, or condition that results in disapproval, hostility, or sanction. Look, I was joking about this on Friday, wearing my hair, right, the man bun or the samurai ponytail or the Star Wars, whatever. But I used to dye my hair. I've had a mohawk. I've done so many things to piss off people. I have never had a hairdo that bothered so many people as in my 40s when I still actually have hair and just get it out of my way by putting this. If I go into public with this on my head, I am receiving a lot of looks and a lot of judgment and a lot of, I mean, it's incredible, and I'm bored by it. I'm just getting it out of my face. But again, so could be non-criminal, something silly like that. You dyed your hair or whatever, or criminal, obviously. And certainly deviance isn't restricted to a specific group, gender, or age. And I mean, think about this. It can include things that are medical conditions, things that aren't chosen. You don't have enough pigment. You have cancer and you're getting cancer treatment and you don't have any hair, and our expectations are that people have hair, particularly if you're a certain gender. What's wrong with that person, right? Or you're in a wheelchair. I mean, whatever it might be, certainly most people will be like, that's not deviant. But in a way, absolutely, to some people. May be based and often is on moral judgment, and depending on the level of deviance, based on legal judgment, right? So, all right, sorry, honestly, what is a sanction? A sanction is like I said, a ticket, getting arrested. Some teacher finds out you cheated on an exam and you get a 0 on it, but you don't get thrown out. That's a version of a sanction, Heavy D, deviance. That's my man, Heavy D. All right, so we kind of break it up in this chapter into deviance and crime. And of course, crime is deviant, but that's once you've gone far enough for it to be, a violation of society's formal enacted criminal law. I mean, you might break jaywalking criminal law every day and nobody's ever written me a ticket. How can that be? Well, yes, it's written and it's formally enacted, but right. There are things that are more serious than others. And of course, the deviance in and of itself recognize violation of cultural norms. I just found out the name of a New Belgium beer is called Fruit Smash. And one of the managers at New Belgium told me that they're marketing this towards your generation because smashing is like a term for sex. And so they are purposely marketing an alcoholic beverage while dropping a slang term for, oh my gosh. I was just like, really? That seems kind of deviant to me. I love deviance because it can be anything. Are we talking about deviance all week, or do you want us to read the next chapter? No, do not read the next chapter because I just said the test is over 4, 5, and 6. If you want to start reading 7 now, you can, but it seems like that'd be deviant. All right, so here's a huge topic: crime, legal but deviant, and then we're looking at behaviors. And of course, I think this is a good way to split things up, which is behaviors on one side and conditions on the other. A mental illness, a differing level of physical ability, some physical illnesses that people might see as deviant, right? So many things, so many possibilities here. It's huge. It's one of my favorite topics. I love to teach a deviant class all semester long, like I am now, because it's just infinitely interesting. And it is that piece that changes all the time. So I'm trying to cultivate students to look at things from, you know, many different perspectives or a gender neutral perspective. And deviance is a great way to do that because the things we're looking at are usually very interesting. People can be very polarized and feel very specific about these things. And so deviance is a great topic for sociology because it trains us to look at things from a different point of view, right? Okay. How many deviant actions have you performed this week? This is just sort of to think about in the background. You know, now, something that I don't ask, I should, is how many deviant actions do you think, like how many times have you been seen deviant by other people in this past week? You know, like you know what you're doing and how you feel about it, but you have absolutely no idea, right, about how other people are feeling. So perhaps a lot. And depending on the type of week you had or how many people, you know, you were interacting with. But I think that's a good thought process, is it's not just us with deviance, right? It's that other picture. Okay. Is that a picture of you, Jason, sitting in your front yard with a shotgun and your dog? It is. That's me in Loveland. And, you know, I had a problem. And the problem was I had a huge boulevard and I had a timeout on fracking, right? My stance on hydraulic fracturing is that I oppose it, okay? So there was an election, I got some signs, I put them up on our boulevard, and we had a really, really long boulevard. And next morning, after I put the signs up, all like 8 or 7 of my signs were gone. And I was like, son of a gun. I was like, okay, that's, to me, that was deviant. Like, I come from a generation where you might disagree with somebody politically, but nobody's going to walk into your yard or your house and just take them or like break them. I mean, generally speaking. So I got a bunch of new signs and I put them up and I sat out there with my dog for a photo op and with that picture, which actually I was only sitting out there for like 5 minutes. But what I did do, has anybody ever here gone catfishing? I'm going to tell you about something that I did in response to stealing. We'll see which is more deviant. Anybody here catfish ever? Do you know what you catfish with? Anybody? My dad and I are like cat fishermen, flat bottom boat guys. Don't have the money for a $50,000 bass boat. What do you think? Well, you catfish with stink bait. No, not noodling. No, there's no way I'm walking into the water with X amount of prehistoric creatures and just putting my awesome fingers into the bank where they could get bit off, because I love my hands and my fingers. All right, so that's just pretty simple. I'm also not that hardcore. And so you fish with the stuff that's like, imagine toothpaste that's made out of rotten cheese and gizzards and hearts and liver and blood, and it's all ground up into like a paste, and it's nasty. Anybody who's ever done any catfishing knows that stuff, because that's how catfish really pick up on that. They smell it and then they want it. So what I did was, it's about that consistency of like frosting. So I put my signs up and I took a butter knife, and around the sides and the back of them, because I knew this happened at night, I frosted them with catfish bait. This is also a lot of oil in the catfish bait. So if you get it on yourself, first of all, you're going to have to shower 10 times to get it off yourself. And then if you get it anywhere on your clothes, they're going to be ruined. So I put those signs out there. I went in and I had a good night's sleep. The next morning, I came out in the boulevard. One of the signs was ripped down, but was still there. The next one was barely out of the ground. Nothing else was touched. Somebody went home smelling like $1,000,000, or like really, really gross rotten cheese and blood, just the nastiest stuff. Now, Julie said, that is the worst. That is deviant. And I said, no, it's not. I said, deviant is hanging out here with a baseball bat in the middle of the night, ready to beat somebody who comes onto my property with those signs. Deviant is stealing the signs. And we had a really great debate anyway. So again, it's that piece that's like from a certain point of view, you know? So how does context, this is what we're talking about. Can some actions be positive but still deviant? Activists, yes. Somebody's actually mentioned that in the questions that I had about that. Wait, so the stereotypical dad who disapproves of his daughter's girlfriend is deviant? Well, to somebody. I mean, it depends on how, does he like answer the door with a shotgun and go, ha ha, and then just set it down? Is it like real terror? That could be deviant. I knew a friend that did that and thought it was going to be funny, and the guy was like out. So probably not the right thing to do. Advocates, know-it-all students. Think about that. Can being really good at college and not partying be deviant? Sure. Yeah, if the expectation is somewhat the other. So gender, deviance. What about being a playa, right? Maybe being identifies the gender male, having multiple sexual partners. You're a playa. Versus somebody identifies gender female who does that. And so, we look at that completely differently. Have a different set of standards, which is deviant, right? Girls can wear makeup, but guys can't. I just think of all the 80s hair bands where they wore makeup. 10 years later, after the hairband thing is gone, everybody would freak out. But maybe rock and roll is a place where men can wear makeup and it's okay. So, right, situational. Depends on observing and what could be seen as deviant. Absolutely. So professional versus casual. Peer groups, right? Some people see folks all dressed in black with their hair dyed black, oh, right? But that's just Angie to her friends. That's like, there's nothing exciting going on there whatsoever. It's totally boring. This is what we do. Past versus present. I mean, think of all the people during Prohibition that were your average moms and dads that didn't break any rules, but were going to speakeasies or risking breaking serious laws because they were going to have their beer. They were going to have their liquor. These aren't like professional criminals. It's Mary from down the street. Situational, right? Dependent. Across cultures, I have here, rape is not a universally deviant act. Most cultures, yes, but not necessarily. Belching, thumbs up. Doing this in another country, don't want to always do that. So deviance can mean many things in many different contexts. It always changes, and it's relativism. It's relative and it's variable. We could look at this in so many different ways. So, is Tiger Woods deviant? And this is from a while ago, but it just kind of goes to show, how things can change. And then furthermore, let's add another dimension to this. Is Tiger Woods deviant? Let's say no. Then information comes out that this person is having extramarital affairs or was abusive relationship, then yes, and enough time passes and you're famous enough to wear no again, right? Kind of, you have the advantage maybe of people forgetting about it. And again, I mean, a lot of people would say the guy on the right is more deviant, far more deviant. And a lot of people would say the person on the left is more deviant, right? So we're going to do a bit of race connection here. And I did talk about that a little bit earlier. But we're going to look at the deviance of explaining things from a biological standpoint. Now, this is something that people are still obviously dealing with today. So it's not something that doesn't apply to us. Early theories argued that people had measurably different body types than non-criminals, like criminals and non-criminals. So you'd look at them and you could say the shape of the skull, right? So phrenology. And that just looked and measured the shapes and sizes of skulls. And it said, here's what the shape of deviant skulls. And so therefore we can predict ahead of time who is more likely to be deviant. Atavisms. That's just saying and comparing people and saying they're really more similar to primitive early humans. These humans here are really more like animals than they are human beings. Therefore slavery, therefore access only for certain people, therefore education only for certain people. And of course, these early theories are disproven. Research persists on brain function, physiology, response. We still have people that are very much trying to look at and purport this sort of failed notion of eugenics. And we talked about that last chapter, the chapter before it. But still playing a role. That's why we keep coming to this piece, which is even if it's built on a foundation of lies, if it is real in its impacts, then it is can be very much real for people, right? Here we go, measuring the head to determine ability. This apparatus measures the head and determines race and ability. So what a handy tool that, I mean, you know, you don't even need your eyes to determine race. You can just put this on somebody's skull. Let's read it. Professor Birger Villinger of the Humboldt County in Berlin invented the plastometer or plastometer, or whatever fake name we just came up with that doesn't really do anything. Shown in the photograph, which is used for determining race symptoms. Ooh, okay, so now, you know, like I said before in earlier chapters, language is the key to all culture. If you want to know how people feel about race, we can look at this, right? Historically, we go back and we read things and we say this. And also professional abilities. I mean, imagine this. We could not only check your race symptoms, but I mean, why even go to college? Because once we strap this thing to your head, I'll also be able to tell you that's just, you'll be a janitor and you'll be a doctor. What an amazing apparatus. It is fastened to the subject's head and a three-dimensional scale is provided for obtaining records. There's so many quotes that would have to be around this. It's really hard to do that. But we are looking at it in terms of this, and people were. Here, prevalent types of features among men convicted of larceny. Now, of course, this doesn't also just have to tie into the race piece, but here's this person has 5 components. This person has 7. This person has 4. You know, what is that? And again, more pictures, more measuring of skulls, more looking at people, and phrenology, and, you know, so looking at the size of the skull, or they would do a cranial weight. So they would dig up skulls from, you know, Native American burial ground or something like that. Of course, they would not ask. They would desecrate these, or African American, you know, burial sites. They would take the skulls, they would measure them, they would fill them with lead shot, little BBs, and then they would say the cranial capacity of this skull is 1 pound. And then they would do the same for people of European descent. Of course, they would do so with permission. They wouldn't, you know, go through desecration that they would. They will fill those cranial capacity of European descendants, and they would say, ooh, the cranial capacity of these European folks are 2 pounds. So clearly, we can see just by science and cranial capacity, right, that people of European descent are twice as human, they are twice as smart, they are twice as should be in positions of power and running the show. That is biological deviance to the max. And that kept people from being free and being able to vote and get housing until 50 years ago and get education until 50 or 60 years ago alongside of people of European descent. So to me, it's really, really, really obvious, yeah, causation and all sorts of, I mean, this is all based again on you know, sham science and things like that. But it's also driven by major educational institutions that were happy to go with the racist science of the day and explanations about biological deviance. And that's used to oppress all sorts of categories of people. We're looking, you know, well past that, and we have been this semester into gender issues as well. And of course, none of those colleges at the time, none of those institutions would have had women in any way, shape, or form, in any, you know, professorial positions or positions of power. So across the board, you know, biological explanation of deviance dangerous. So modern approaches look at this as a product of an interaction between biological and environmental factors, nature and nurture. We know this. Certainly a little bit of biology involved, maybe with some alcoholism traits, but we know again that, you know, nurture is far more important, socialization far more important, hours and days and years of that modeling of behavior more important. And of course, you know, a lot of these twin studies where we're looking at where people are raised in the same, socialized in the same scenario, and yet they're very different, right, in ways. So we're looking at this, and we want to make sure that if we are looking at a biological component whatsoever that doesn't have the tone, tenure, negativity, absence of intelligence, and negative repercussions for entire groups of folks, so that we can no longer look at someone and say they're going to be the criminal. And of course, we still do that, right? Profiling is still very prevalent. And we've moved into new forms of this: institutionalized racism, institutionalized prejudice, institutionalized sexism, an attack on people's orientation. You know, so this is not something that's part of our past. It's, you know, sort of part of our right now as well. All right, and let me head back here. Name someone that comes to mind when you think of deviance. So let me read our list now. Larry Nasser, my stoner best friend. I love it that it's just an unnamed stoner, but like Jay and Silent Bob hanging out in front of your dorm room. Future the rapper, Ted Bundy, shoplifters, Hitler, Dennis Rodman. Wow, back to back, really? Of course, here, Dennis Rodman, Megan from Drake and Josh, Al Capone. I'll admit, I don't know some of these references, so it makes it hilarious. I know who Drake is. Don't know Josh. Wrongdoings, Ed Kemper. Is Wrongdoings a rapper? No? Or is that just like the phrase? Because if it's not, then I'm taking that as my rap name, Wrongdoings. My brother, college professor. So many college professors, cheating criminals, Bonnie and Clyde. And I'm looking for people here, not like actions. Richard Ramirez, my roommate, Catholic grade school teacher, Snoop Dogg. All right, is Snoop Dogg deviant anymore? Maybe to some people, but I've got to go. It's been a long way since he was sitting in a courtroom for murder charges to he's doing a show with who's the felon? He's not even a felon. Martha Stewart. Yeah, like my dad, you know, who's told me that, and I knew that anyway because I love Snoop. But my 15-year-old's like, Dad, do you know Martha Stewart's a felon and Snoop Dogg's not? And I'm like, yes, and I generally don't trust Martha Stewart. All right, Ozzy Osbourne, me, well, I like that. Trump, my cheating ex-boyfriend, Cardi B, oh boy, Prisoners, yep, Miley Cyrus, Martha Stewart. Okay, well, that's at least it's a really entertaining list, that's for sure. Okay, head back here, do a screen share. Miley Cyrus. Is she really? Was she around anymore? All right. What about these folks? You know, how about the individual on the right? Anybody? Deviant? Yes or no? Why? And what why your response?
I would say deviant personally, because like you said, the definition is like something that might go against like the cultural norm, and to me that goes against the cultural norm, and it feels a bit deviant for that.
I have so many students that have piercings. How can this be?
It just feels overdone, if that makes sense.
Well, sure. All right. So any piercings 60 years ago, you know, except for maybe ears and only on certain people, it's just all deviant. Today, a lot more piercings. My students have a lot more tattoos. I mean, a lot more percentage-wise than maybe 10 years ago. So, but maybe volume of. Why else deviant or not deviant on the right?
I actually don't consider it deviant. I don't think that there's like a set number of piercings in this case that it's like not okay anymore. I think that there's always going to be people that are going to say, you know, like, I don't like that certain piercing, or I don't know. I don't think anyone ever created like a certain number of piercings. And if that makes that person feel beautiful, or like that's their culture, what they want, then I don't think it's wrong, or I don't think they should have a sanction or anything. You know, I think that if it makes them happy, then that's what they should do. And there's no amount of number of tattoos or anything you want to do to your body that's not conventional or not okay.
All right, awesome. Good. Anybody else?
I agree with Anna in the chat. I'd probably be scared of him if he was walking down the street. So I would say deviant.
All right, good. How about the usual suspects? Right? And I think it's interesting because as we look at the last one, I guess we didn't talk about the upper left. Oftentimes students say yes. Sometimes they say it's because tattoos. Sometimes people say they could be flashing gang signs. They could not be. And there's a lot of ways I think to interpret it, right? So I put these in here on purpose because I think it's a little more difficult, you know, and based on our assumptions. But we know who the usual suspects are, right? The usual suspects are people of color, people with tattoos, minority individuals. But we know, right, who the usual suspects are. Generally speaking, the usual suspects are people of European descent, are people who identify as the gender male. And I think I'm also prone to making those judgments, right? Like I'm not just because I teach sociology. If somebody says there was a school shooting today, again, the first thought that crossed my mind, even though it's a stereotype, is definitely going to be it's some young white male. And I think that at a certain point you've got a lot to back that up, right? And so you've got to kind of figure out this thing. But there's a lot of serious serial killers, and if we look at somebody like Dahmer, this is somebody who's like, you know, the creepy mustache here, the Milwaukee one. This is somebody who was let out and let go by police when a couple people that got away from him that were drugged, heavily drugged, young Filipino boy, another young African-American guy ran out into the street. Police caught the guy. Dahmer comes out and says he's just had too much to drink. He's my boyfriend. And because Dahmer is generally speaking to police, non-threatening, white and male, they let him take those people, no questions asked. Yes, he ate people. Sure, drilled holes in their skulls, filled it with acid to see what it would do. I mean, bizarre stuff. That being said, we know who the usual suspects are, and yet oftentimes they continue to get away with it. He is deviant even for other serial killers. Maybe. I mean, you know, they're all really very, very deviant from multiple perspectives, but sure, maybe some of his behaviors in that constraint. All right, 144. I'm going to stop with this, and I will pick up next time with the last part of Deviance on Wednesday, and I'll do the theoretical pieces. So structural functional thoughts on Deviance and conflict thoughts on Deviance. Since we just have a few minutes and it's really impossible to get into one of those two with just a few minutes left. Are there any questions that you have for me? Can you stay for a second? I have a question. Yeah, absolutely. I'll stick around for an extra second. Yes, Lindsay.
Can a culture's like view of deviance affect their laws?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I think of like cannabis laws, right? Things that were caused by racism. The foundation of all cannabis laws are lodged in these crazy, you know, in the time, Negroes are going to rape white women. And that was the thought, the violence piece. It's all race-based, and culture starts to change, but you've made these laws. And I mean, now we're just starting to deprogram this, you know, and still to law enforcement, massively deviant, right? People of color twice as, half as likely to carry drugs, twice as likely to be pulled over. So again, the stuff, even if it has traction and even if society has changed, can continue. And yeah, very much, you know, very much changes and in ways does not, you know. But that's the thing about culture. Sometimes it's like forward and backwards. So it's not just all like, you know, bound for glory. It's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. Yeah, I would say that in regards to lots of things. Does that make sense? Anybody else in here? Any questions about deviance? Just sort of trying, here, let me look at you with my own eyes. Nope, I'm gonna keep these on. It's awful bright out now. All right, just want to make sure you got my canvas message. I will look. I have a lot of emails today, and it's a Monday morning, and I had a white supremacy issue in one of my classes at CU. And if you remember anything about my first talk to the class, like my very first day, you know that that's the thing that I do not abide by. I spent 4 hours this morning trying to teach and be compassionate and be loving, and also shutting awfulness down. So sorry if I have not gotten back to you. Usually I'm pretty fast about that, but you know, it was a Monday, so why not? I actually got up at 3 a.m. I felt a disturbance in the force and checked on my classes and found something like that had just been posted. It was weird. It was like, yeah, I'm a Jedi, and that's what sociology will do for you. So that's why you should major in sociology. You'll be dead asleep and be able to be like, I feel a disturbance in the force. Can anything else? Also email Shelby, is that okay? Yeah, please do. And if you have, quick questions, email your GTA that you're working with. Certainly email me, but right now I'm pretty swamped. So we'll see what I can get to this afternoon. And then I have a follow-up meetings with that whole thing all day, because I'm happy that the institutions that I work for take it seriously, and as seriously it would seem as I do. All right, everybody. Speaking of deviant segue. So I'll leave you though with a positive note, and that is nobody here on campus threw a giant party where we overturned a car, showed our overprivilege, and potentially had a super spreader event. That's CSU doing it right. Also, I'm going to go hit a few trays from Downtown. I did get to see Zach Levine participate this weekend, but you're not probably about to take out Steph Curry, because that guy's cold-blooded when it comes to shooting form. Wow. But it was fun. Usually the All-Star game and weekend, I'm a little bit more into it. But everybody's staying safe this year. I'm just happy to see some hoops. And I'm really happy that young hoops and high school hoops and college hoops and people are playing with masks, and we're finding a way to get basketball done. That's a big part of my one son's life, Zion. He's been out of hoops now for a year. He's been in leagues for a long time. He's going to a tryout Thursday where he's going to mask up the whole time. So I'm excited about a little bit of normalcy and safety. So be good people, do good things, mask up, be safe. I love you all. Please reach out if you need anything. Take care, everybody. And I will stick around for 1 second. Anna?
Hi, yeah, thank you.
I can stop recording.